Earlier, you mentioned working with Bay, and would love to hear is which kind of Bay are you working with, and a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love Bay. So it's the California Bay, which is also called Oregon Myrtle, where I live. It's our local bay. So it's different from the Bay Laurel that we hear of, the ancient Greek myths, but has very similar properties. And so and of course with the plants, there can be certain patterns or tendencies with the way that they help support things, but also because it's a relationship with the plants, it can be completely unique. And so just to say my experience with Bay might not be what anyone else, what your experience or anyone else who works with Bay, but I actually have some, yeah, so this little Bay essence right here that I made that I just absolutely love. And so the experience with Bay, as with all plants, the way that I love to work with them in relationship is to get to know them personally before I start, learning about historically how they've been worked with, kind of a thing. And so with Bay, from the get-go, the way that Bay came into my life is I was working on a huge project, bigger than anything I had ever done to date professionally that was so big that I was calling in the support of the plants every single day, every single morning before I'd even log onto my laptop. I'd go outside and call in the plants. And so that was at a time where I was also experimenting with working with some local friends here of working with one essence per month to just see, okay, who is this plant? Let's just go deeper and learn more about who this plant is on this relational level. So for whatever reason that month, we decided to work with Bay. And I had this experience of taking the essence, and I immediately felt this clearing in my head, like, okay, wow, really open in the third eye. And as I continued to sit with it and tune in, I started to feel this experience of as if I was experiencing third eye vision all over my entire body. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life before working with Bay. And so because I was so immersed in this huge creative professional project at the time, inevitably the essences that we're working with become a part of the fabric of what that experience is. And I started to notice in that experience that what I was experiencing, it was as if Bay was at the helm of the ship of this creative project and was steering the direction of where this project was going. And so I could essentially ask Bay, where are we going? Like, what are we doing together in our collaboration? What direction is this going to go in? And I would get very clear guidance from Bay, from the plant spirit. And I would then, as the three-dimensional human, my role in that dynamic was to then execute it in physical reality. And so there's all these different layers that we can work with the plants. That's why I love them so much, that it can be for this very, like in this, like I was, like we started at the beginning, how it can be so, so practical. Like maybe even just smelling a bay leaf because you're having a headache or something, and that's not allowing you to concentrate, and you want to concentrate a little more because you're working on something that's a little bit, challenging, maybe has to do with money or something, all the way to this very etheric realm and way that I just described of how I've worked with Bay. And so anytime I'm working with big creative projects, I'll tune in with Bay and ask, are we working together for this one or not? Recently, there was another project where Bay was like, no, it's not me. And then it was Rosemary who was helping to co-steward the project in that way. But Bay is like my main go-to for that. So yeah, if anyone listening is interested in working with Bay in that way and just tuning in to see, what messages and medicine does Bay have to offer or want to contribute to some creative project you're working with, I would highly recommend it because I've never experienced anything like that before or since in terms of how Bay can work with really and so even in the signature of the plant of the smell, how it's so clearing. It was like the sense of being at the helm of the ship and the waters are just parting. Like we are just going into uncharted territory together, and Bay is steering the ship through that. So the path is very clear, it's very aligned, the flow is happening fully, that kind of experience. I'm like, I can't do that on my own. Like that's the plants are so amazing in supporting us in this way.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear about that because it's a all around where I live, and it's a very so And I like how you did mention it is also called the Oregon myrtle, but we here in California, of course, call it the California bay. And it's the same plant. And it is so distinctive in its scent, like it, and it fills the air. So whenever anyone is doing any kind of tree work here, like living in a forested area, there's always some kind of tree work going around. And when somebody like and let's just also I'll just also say bay grows so prolifically. Like it is everywhere. It'll grow from there's sprouts of it everywhere. It'll if you cut down a bush or a tree, it'll just sprout back. It doesn't like go away. So there's nothing, about it that is like, you can cut it and cut it and cut it and it'll keep coming back. It has that sort of like tenacity, kind of like blackberry, in that same way of providing total motivate, like this motivational energy that is, I think that and blackberry are sort of unparalleled in that way. But I hadn't, the California Bay isn't one that, um, uh, like I made the essence too, but it's not in the big collections of essences. So I was really, really happy to hear how you're using that and how you experienced it. It has a really take charge sort of energy, and um too much of it can cause headaches too. So like it's so much stronger than the regular bay that people use in cooking. Like if you were to substitute it, you would use maybe a fraction of what you would use in a stew, like with regular bay, because that California bay is so strong. It's so pungent and spicy, and it's pretty intense. So it is an intense energy.
Oh yeah, and I love that you brought that up because that brings up such a key thing around even working with this metaphor of water that we've been working with in this conversation. Abundance is not about excess. It's not about, if you have too much if you're surrounded by too much water, you'll drown, it's be suffocated by the water. The same kind of a way with bay, like you're talking about, too much of it can actually cause headaches. And so this is why the relationship with the plants, the relationship with money is so important, because when we engage in a conscious relationship with another being or with another, aspect of reality, we're looking at what is the most aligned way to be in relationship with this being. That if we are inundated with an excess of something, that may be challenging for us to not be able to focus. And so in this case with Bay, it's like, consciously entering into a relationship with Bay through working with the essence. I'm asking Bay to help steer me in a very clear, specific, or I didn't even ask for that. Actually, Bay just came in. It was like, we're going to do this. And then I started asking, okay, how are we going to do this kind of a thing? That through the relation, when we work with something not as a way of an inert resource, but as a living dynamic consciousness, we're not going to struggle with that thing of drowning in the excess, because we're looking at what's the path of alignment. When something is in alignment, it flows, we're not stuck in the murky overflow kind of a thing. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. I never even thought about that with Bay, but that's like so perfectly illustrates that.